Welcome, everyone, to our daily broadcast on Kabbalah for Heretics with me, your host, Yakov, Leib, HaKohain. It's good to see all of you this morning. Well, not see you, but good to know you're out there listening. And let's continue with what is our 25-year study of the Zohar. That's what we've been giving most of our attention to in these broadcasts. Not to bore all of you who already have heard me saying this, but 25 years ago we started every day, every morning, going through the Zohar, volume by volume, cover to cover, page by page, sentence by sentence. And over that period of time, we have completed volumes 1, 2, and 3, and are now well into completing volume 4. So it's a privilege to be here with you this morning to engage in this important work, and I'm grateful to all of you for listening. Regularly, I would hope. We have a good listening audience on our YouTube channel, and so I'm very grateful. Let's get back to where we left off in the Zohar, Volume 4. It says, so long as Israel in their own land studied the Torah. Now, again and again, I point out, when the Zohar speaks of the Torah, it is not speaking of the 5 books of Moses necessarily, with all the do's and don'ts and shall notses. It is speaking of the spiritual Torah, the first Torah, the Torah d'Atzilus. So it says, as long as Israel is in their own land and studied the Torah, the community of Israel abode with them. Now listen, the people of Israel are separate from the community of Israel. The community of Israel is an ephemeral thing. It is a, if you will, supernatural thing. It doesn't consist of neighborhoods and houses and so forth. What it's saying here is when the Jewish people study the spiritual Torah, the community of Israel is with them. There's a differentiation being made here between Israel and the community of Israel. And again, the community of Israel consists of not only Jews, but also Gentiles who have come in unto the community of Israel, who have abandoned their other gods for the one God, the God of everyone. Now, we talked about this at great length yesterday about the inclusionary nature. Inclusionary, not exclusionary, as so many people think, but the inclusionary nature of original Judaism. It is inclusionary. It is not proselytizing. It is not proselytizing. But it is, in its original form, open and ready and willing and loving those Gentiles who reach out to the born Israelite, for them to lead them by the hand up the God mountain to God. But we do not proselytize, unlike other religions. Now, there are other religions that did not and do not proselytize. Buddhism was one of them, for example. Buddhism did not proselytize. In fact, if I recall correctly, the Buddha is said to have said to his disciples, when you're talking to someone about this religion, if you are, agree with whatever they say about theirs. Do you hear? It isn't grabbing by the collar, shaking the person and forcing them to convert. So when she presented herself to the king with the Torah, she was full of strength and confidence, and the holy king rejoiced to meet her. But when she came without the Torah, then, as it were, her strength was enfeebled. When Israel comes before God with only the Torah de Beria, the remaking, the Torah of laws and orders and legalisms, when it comes to the Holy King with that and not the spiritual Torah, Israel is weakened. Again, this is such an admonishment against the letter of the law. Such an admonishment in the Zohar against the Torah de Beria, the Torah of remaking what is now the Old Testament. So the Jew who practices the Sabbath scrupulously, doesn't cook on the Sabbath, doesn't cut paper or write on paper, doesn't ride a bike or a car, doesn't do any of those things, is scrupulous about the Sabbath, as well as other kinds of Jewish rituals, that is not going to give them power before the Holy One. That is not sufficient. It is the spirit of the Torah that they must carry with them before God. All of you. Jesus said to the Jews at the time, the Pharisees, which were the mold for the Orthodox Jews now, he said, you know the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. Therefore, what he's saying is, you are coming to God enfeebled. I have come to empower you with the Torah you must bring before the Lord, the spiritual Torah. And what is that spiritual Torah, for example? Listen to what is being said right now, right here. This is spiritual Torah. Be not what you expected. It doesn't consist of thou shalt and thou shalt not. It doesn't consist of sin and redemption. It consists of illusion and enlightenment and the reunification of God as its principal goal, led by the Holy Spirit, not by the ego, not by man, not by a teacher, not by me, not by you, not by your egos for sure. Excuse me, I have a bad cold. But by the Holy Spirit right now, speaking despite the fact that I have such a terrible cold and I'm having trouble talking. That's the premise on which I operate. You're free to accept it or not. I operate on the principle that it is not I saying these things to you right now, but the Holy Spirit being. No matter how many times I'll say that, people say, well, what can I do to do that? You know, what rituals can I perform? You know, what tricks can I play? That's not the point. You can perform rituals and say prayers and do all of that from today till tomorrow. That is not going to bring you into the presence of God and under God's power. Only the listening to the Holy Spirit, who is God in the world, wherever she speaks, such as right now, only that, and realizing that from her only comes the truth of God. Not religion, it's not religious truth. This isn't to say that Judaism is true and Christianity is false, or vice versa. That's not the point. The Holy Spirit is unconcerned with right and wrong. It is unconcerned with religion. We're told in the Zohar, in the oral Torah, that God sent down with Moses the first Torah, the Torah de Atzilus, the spiritual Torah. And as Moses approached the children of Israel, they were sinning with the golden calf. And Moses broke that spiritual Torah, which it says right in the Old Testament, written by the finger of God. It says that. It's that first Torah. It says was written by the finger of God and given to Moses to bring down to Israel. Israel was sinning. Moses took those laws and not that spiritual Torah and broke it. Took it away. And in its place was given the Torah of B'Jabariah, the Torah of remaking. Israel was not yet ready to receive the totally spiritual Torah. And so it was given the Old Testament, allegedly from God's dictation. Worthy, not worthy. Israel, mankind was not worthy to receive the Torah de Atzilus, which was purely listen to the voice of God. And then he says, I shall be your God and you shall be my people. That's how it is. That was the spiritual Torah de Atzilus, written by the finger of God, taken back because Israel was not ready to receive it until it would come again through the Messiah, which is what happened with the man Jesus. Jesus came to reinstate the Torah de Atzilus. The emphasis is constantly on listening to God, communing with God, almost person to person. When they ask him how to pray, the way he gives them to pray is to speak directly to God. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That is not how prayers were done or even are done by religious Jews. They are done by simply reciting set prayers in the Siddur, the prayer book. Prayer was not, up until the time of Yeshua, a personal matter with God. It was a ritual matter with God. And the coming of the Messiah would change that and restore the spiritual Torah. That spiritual Torah was restored by Yeshua Bar Miriam, and by Sabbatai Zevi, and again by Jacob Frank, and again by so many others who have come and gone to restore the holy spiritual Torah. Forget about keeping kosher. Forget about worrying about whether you did something right or wrong. That is not what has come to us to be practiced. It is knowing God, listening to God in every goddamn thing you come across. You listen for the voice of God in my speaking. You listen for the voice of God in a car backfiring. You listen for the voice of God in your television program. You listen for the voice of God if you are farting. You listen for the voice of God, and then you shall be his people. Oh, that's awful. Yes, it is. He said, when I first brought you out of Egypt, I gave you one commandment only. Listen to my voice. Then I shall be your God, and you shall be my. The coming of the Messiah plucked the harp of David, if you remember, it says that in the Zohar, and sent its music out. That music of the harp of David is the spiritual Torah. The Messiah comes to activate it, to teach it. You see that constantly in the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. In the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, which is probably more accurate than any of the other Gospels in the Christian liturgy, in the Christian canon, all he is saying to them is, wake up. Know God when you're seeing God. Don't see your ego. See God when God is in front of you, and God is in front of you in everything you do. Now the ego says, oh, I do that. Of course, I know God is in everything that happens around me and in everything I do. I know that. God is everywhere. And it never gets any further than that. The ego asserting, oh, yes, I know that. What they don't know is to actively listen, to actively, intentionally listen to God, even if it's necessary to call up the voice of God in holy imagination. But it's an intentional act done with kavanah, not something you say, oh, yes, I do that. I hope you're hearing this. Please, God, let them hear it. Not my words, God, but thy words. Not from me are these things being said, but from the Holy Spirit dwelling in me as it dwells all of you out there. The problem with all of you out there is that your egos are holding the Holy Spirit captive. Are you saying that the Holy Spirit has been freed from captivity of the ego in you? Yes, I'm saying that. Yes, I'm saying that. Believe it or not, I don't give a damn. And I say that not on my own authority, but on the authority of my teachers, who are all God-inspired men. Swahananda, after years of study with him, and when he said finally to me, yes, what you are describing to me that happened to you last Thursday, that is samadhi. And he said to me, now go, start your own ashram, he said. Now listen to me. I did not say this to myself. It was the furthest thing from my mind. He said, go, start your own ashram, initiate people, and we will come to your ashram to be guests, and you will come to us here to be a guest. And I said, but Swamiji, what of my ego? And he said, don't worry, the world will take care of your ego. And that's exactly what we did. And that's exactly how it worked out. I would come there to teach, and they would come to my ashram to teach and to listen. The monks would come to listen to me teaching. But I did not decide on my own to teach. It was given to me to teach by my master. The same way that it was given me to work with God through dreams and so forth by my master, whose own master was Jung himself. After 6 years of working with James Kirsch, Jung's very close personal disciple, after 6 years of working with James, both intellectually and spiritually and non-cognitively, he said to me finally, all right, you're ready. Now you go and do for others what I have been doing for you. I did not decide on my own to do this that I'm doing with you right now at this very moment. And I'm not telling you this to brag, although I'm damn proud of it. I'm telling it to you so you'll understand it is not by my authority that I'm doing this. And what I'm doing and seeking to do is to do for you what James and Swahananda did for me. Go now and do what I have been doing with you, with others. Please God, let us all come to that place. Rabbi Yossi discoursed on the verse, the burden of Duma. Duma means silence. The Masa Duma, the burden of silence. One calleth unto me out of Seir. Watchman, what of the night? We'll look at that. Wow. We'll look at that tomorrow. In the meantime, we'll stop here. We'll stop here. And I will end by doing what I've been doing at the end of every broadcast recently, and will continue doing for the next year. And that is, I will recite the sacred Kaddish, prayer for the dead, in honor of and for the soul of our departed beloved friend, Leonard Cohen. God bless him. A tzaddik, truly. More than an entertainer, more than a poet, more than a musician. Those are all secondary things. He was first and foremost a great soul, a great tzaddik. Leonard, Yiskadal v'yiskadal shmecha bo, bo mo divro chirusei v'yamlech malchusei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayedecho beis Yisrael, bagalo v'izman kori v'imru amen. Yehei shmecha bo mevarach, elam omel maya. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispa'av v'yisomam v'yisnasei v'yisadar, v'yisalei v'yisalal shmei d'kutsho b'richu. Leilo mincha birchasa v'shirasa tushvechasa v'nechemasa damiran b'amo v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chainu aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom v'imramav hu yasei shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Go now in peace. The broadcast is over. One word, though, as you go through the world today, do not be led by another person. And for God's sake, do not be led by your ego, of all things. Be led instead, knowingly, consciously, intentionally, by the Holy Spirit speaking in you now, speaking to you now. When you leave this broadcast, it will continue speaking to you as it has been doing all morning. Continue listening to her. Only her.